Today is Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, and today is National Rescue Dog Day, which is probably responsible for a lot of very good decisions that didn't feel like a big deal at the time. Welcome to Wait That's Random, This Day in History. I'm your host, C.L. Burns, voice actor, audiobook narrator, and your guide through the odd and unexpected corners of history. Let's dive in. On May 20th, 1932, Amelia Earhart took off on her solo flight across the Atlantic Ocean. At the time, this wasn't a routine journey. Navigation wasn't precise, conditions were unpredictable, and much of the flight happened without clear visibility. She dealt with mechanical concerns, weather challenges, ice forming on the aircraft, and long stretches where the path ahead wasn't fully known. What stands out here isn't just the accomplishment, it's the reliance on judgment, making decisions with incomplete information, adjusting in real time, and continuing forward without certainty. Sometimes progress depends on trusting what you can't fully see, and sometimes that same idea shows up in a different kind of journey. On today's date in 1989, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade premiered. At its core, the story revolves around a search, a path filled with clues, interpretation, and uncertainty. And one of its most memorable moments centers on a leap of faith, a step taken without visible support. What's interesting is how that idea connects, because the character isn't just reacting, he's interpreting, reading signals, trusting what he believes is there, even when it isn't obvious. And that's part of what makes stories like that resonate. Sometimes the most important step isn't what you see, it's what you decide to believe is there. And sometimes understanding comes from interpreting something you can't see at all. In the 1980s, DNA identification techniques began to change forensic science. Before that, identification relied heavily on physical evidence that could be directly observed. But DNA introduced something different, information that couldn't be seen in a traditional sense, but could be analyzed. Patterns with biological material, connections that weren't obvious at first glance. And once those methods developed, they changed how cases were understood. Because now conclusions could be drawn from something invisible to the eye. Sometimes the most reliable answers come from things you can't directly see. And sometimes that kind of quiet confidence shows up in how someone performs. James Stewart was born on May 20th, 1908. He became known for a style that felt natural and understated. Roles in films like It's a Wonderful Life, Rear Window, and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Performances that didn't rely on intensity, but on presence. A sense of sincerity that carried through the character. Over time, that approach made his performances feel believable, grounded, and consistent across very different types of roles. Sometimes what stands out isn't what's obvious, it's what feels real. At first, these don't seem connected, but they start to line up. A flight moves forward without full visibility. A story builds around a step taken on belief, and a system finds answers in something unseen. Different situations, but each one shows how progress often depends on trusting what isn't fully visible. Anyway, that's what came together while working through May 20th. Stop by tomorrow and we'll see where the road takes us. If you'd like to hear more of my work or explore the books and projects I've been a part of, you can find it all at waitthat'srandom.com. I'm C.L. Burns, and I appreciate you stopping by. I'll see you tomorrow.